Donald Trump is once again raging online, guys, lashing out at anyone or anything that dares to irritate him, and which, let's be honest, guys, these days it doesn't take much, does it? But this time his fury wasn't aimed at Democrats, the media, or his usual scapegoat. It was directed squarely at his own Republican allies. In yet another bizarre outburst on Truth Social, Trump unleashed a string of unhinged posts, hammering his keyboard with that trademark tantrum energy. Among his latest targets, there were Republican senators. We're going to unpack this latest meltdown, guys, from Trump and what it reveals about his growing panic over the ongoing government shutdown, something that he's clearly feeling the heat from. But before we dive in, make sure to like this video and subscribe if you already haven't. It does go a long way in helping our work and reach more people. Now, before we break down Trump's attacks on his fellow Republicans, we've got to look at someone who perfectly summed up his weakness and chaos plaguing today's GOP. Former President Barack Obama. Speaking in Virginia, Obama didn't hold back in highlighting the failures of a party still living in Trump's shadows.
You know, a lot of people have asked me lately whether I'm surprised by the direction the country's taken. And even though I am the hope and change guy, I try to be honest with them. So I say, yes, there are things I am worried about. I am worried about how quickly basic democratic rules and norms have been weakened. I'm worried about how willing Republicans in Congress have been to surrender their role as members of a co-equal branch of government, refusing to buck the president even when they know he's out of line. Even when a lot of them will privately admit that power is being abused in ways that will hurt their constituents and hurt the country. I worry about a Supreme Court that, so far at least, has shown no willingness to check this administration's excesses, even when those actions break legal precedent and seem to defy the bedrock principle that no one is above the law.
These are the same men who never stop bragging about how tough and macho they supposedly are, always puffing up their chests and talking about strength, yet the moment Donald Trump snaps his fingers, they crumble. And not to someone with some genuine power or principle, but to a failed businessman, you know, turned reality TV performer who's made a career out of bluff and bluster. Trump has never been the strong man he pretends to be. There's nothing intimidating about him, guys, but still Republican leaders tremble at the thought of a nasty post on his social media platform. Now, out of pure fear of Trump's online tantrums, they abandon their integrity and bow before him. You know, it's humiliating. Trump insulted Ted Cruz's wife publicly, and Cruz still grovels, you know. House Speaker Mike Johnson has effectively handed the reins of Congress to Trump, who brags out openly about pulling the strings. Johnson doesn't seem to care about, you know, his constitutional duties or the American people. His focus is on protecting Trump from accountability, even when it comes to sensitive investigations like those tied to Epstein. You know, to do so, they'll stoop to any level, you know, launching vile, racist attacks, manipulating policy and gutting essential programs like SNAP that millions rely on. They've even obstructed legitimate congressional processes out of loyalty to Trump. It's a dangerous, degrading display of cowardice, guys, you know, and corruption. And once again, former President Barack Obama called out exactly this kind of moral collapse, rightfully condemning the rot that Trumpism has inflicted on the GOP.
I mean, they've devoted enormous energy to trying to entrench themselves in power and punishing their enemies and enriching their friends and silencing their critics. They put on a big show of deporting people and targeting transgender folks. They never miss a chance to scapegoat minorities and DEI for every problem under the sun. You got a flat tire? DEI. Huh. Wife mad at you? DEI.
I'm genuinely relieved that President Obama is shining a spotlight on the toxic bigotry spewing from today's Republican Party, guys. A party scrambling to defend its own failures as the government shutdown just drags on. The American people see clearly through it. They know exactly who's to blame. Republicans control the White House, the Senate and the White House. Yet they're incapable of doing their jobs. Instead of working towards solutions or protecting essential programs like healthcare, they've just dusted off their same old tired playbook of cruelty, attacking the poor and spreading racist myths about welfare queens and SNAP recipients. The truth is simple, guys. Millions of Americans work full-time and still can't afford to live. It's not fraud, it's just a broken system that Republicans refuse to fix because it's easier to demonize struggling families than to hold, corrupt corporations accountable. Now, with the shutdown and public outrage closing in, Trump is once again losing control. He knows these issues are politically toxic for him. And in his usual panic, he's turned his rage on Senate Republicans, firing off deranged posts that show just how desperate and unstable his so-called leadership has become. Now, Donald Trump wrote this on his Truth Social. Remember, Republicans, regardless of the Schumer shutdown, the Democrats will terminate the filibuster the first chance they get. They will pack the Supreme Court, pick up 2 states and add at least 8 electoral votes. Trump posted, "Their 2 objectives are gone. Don't be weak and stupid. Fight, fight, fight. Win, win, win. We will immediately end the extortionist shutdown, get all of our agenda passed, and make life so good for Americans that these deranged Democrat politicians will never ever have a chance to destroy America. Republicans, you will rue the day that you didn't terminate the filibuster. Be tough, be smart, and win." This is much bigger than the shutdown. This is the survival of our country. I'm beyond relieved that we no longer have to listen to senators like Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin ramble on about the so-called sanity of the filibuster. A procedural relic they're treated like a sacred artifact while blocking real progress. Both of them are finally gone, off to cash in with the corporations instead of standing in the way of American people. The truth is the filibuster has always been a tool of obstruction, guys, not democracy, and it was historically used to uphold racist policies. Yet during the Biden administration, Republicans and their enablers weaponized it to kill essential reforms like the $15 minimum wage and voting rights protections, all while pretending to care about tradition. Meanwhile, Donald Trump, ever the hypocrite he is, has no interest in norms or institutions when they get in his way. He's now demanding that Republicans terminate the filibuster entirely so they can ram through his extremist agenda unchecked. It's crucial we remember that this moment, because next time Democrats are in power, Republicans will suddenly, rediscover their love for, the balance, as it were. They'll lecture everyone about respecting institutions. They themselves spent years just shredding. Let's be honest, the GOP long ago stopped caring about democracy, guys. They've trampled on every rule, every value and every norm. Yet we're constantly told to be, bipartisan and find common ground with people who openly undermine basic human dignity, who attack the rights of trans Americans, spread racist hate and protect billionaires like Elon Musk, while millions struggle to survive. There's no moral equivalence here, guys. You can't compromise with people who don't even believe your coalition deserves to exist. President Biden began his term talking about, healing the soul of America. But healing doesn't mean letting corruption and criminality just slide. Now, Merrick Garland's hesitation to prosecute Trump out of fear of political backlash only emboldened those who think they're above the law. Protecting norms means nothing if you let the people just destroying them just walk free. So when Democrats regain power, they must not flinch, in my opinion. Don't let the fear of optics or the Senate, parliamentarian stall progress. Trump wants to dismantle healthcare and destroy safety nets. We should be just as bold in the opposite direction, guaranteeing healthcare for all, raising the minimum wage, passing strong climate and gun reform, and delivering justice to those who tore the country apart for personal gain. This is not the time for timidity. It's a time to fight back unapologetically. And as Barack Obama powerfully reminded us in his latest speech, that fight for the soul of the nation isn't over, it's just getting started.
It says that even though we got rid of a king, there's still a caste system in America, a pecking order of who makes decisions and who obeys, who gets opportunity and who is obliged to serve. And it's a story that's policed by fear and force, that tries to convince people that for their group to win, another group has to lose. That if somebody doesn't look like you or think like you or practice religion exactly the same way you do, they must be a threat to your way of life, and they need to be put in their place. And that's how Donald Trump thinks about America. Make America great again by putting the people like him back in charge, even if they don't know what the hell they're doing. Now, but here's the thing. That story is not new. That's the oldest story in the book. It's not even uniquely American. For most of human history, that's the way society's worked. There was somebody on top and somebody on the bottom. There were lords and there were peasants. And for a long time, that story of caste and privilege and concentrated power, that was the law of the land here in America. If you looked like me, you were likely treated as property. If you were a woman or a white man who did not own property, you could not vote. For a long time, if you were an Irish or Italian immigrant, we're not hiring. If you're Jewish or Asian, don't bother applying to our school. If you were Native American, you weren't even treated as an American, even though you were here. But from the very start, there was another story, born of this nation's true revolutionary spirit. A story that says we the people means what it says, that all of us are included, that we are not subjects, we are citizens, defined not by race or religion or gender or sexual orientation, but by our commitment to a common creed and a willingness to accept not just the privileges, but the responsibilities that come with that citizenship. That's what made the American experiment unique. That's what made us special.
The forces trying to drag the country backward are relentless, but that's only meaning you have to push harder. This channel is about commitment to doing exactly that, calling out corruption, exposing hypocrisy, and fighting for a future grounded in truth, justice, and equality. And as always, guys, please hit that subscribe button, leave a like and comment on this video. Stay connected, stay safe, and I'll see you on the next one.